the deadliest form of cancer.
Lung cancer research is advancing.
Early detection and treatment.
With nearly 400 published academic papers, Dr. Ross Camidge has been central to progress over the past 20 years.
ROS1 is another gene rearrangement.
But in 2022, the worst kind of news. This world-renowned doctor and researcher became a patient himself.
There's a mass at the top of my right lung.
Diagnosed with the very cancer he's dedicated his life to fighting.
My eldest, of course, said, "So are you going to die?"
Imagine you're Dr. Ross Camidge. You spent 20 plus years dedicated to saving the lives of people who've been diagnosed with the deadliest cancer out there, lung cancer. And then you learn you have it too. It's at stage 4. My name is Stephanie Trong. I'm the founder of The Patient Story, and I'm so privileged that I've been able to speak to Dr. Camidge multiple times, including this time when he's decided to share his diagnosis after keeping it private for more than 2 years. So this is Dr. Ross Camidge's story in his own words.
I have a sense of humor.
Humor is important to Dr. Ross Camidge.
Almost everything can be turned into something that makes me giggle, or hopefully somebody else giggle.
At home with his wife and 2 teenage daughters,
I can get my wife giggling, just, whatever we're talking about. And I do think there's a lot of fun in life.
and in his clinic with his patients.
I don't draw a distinction between me, Ross, and me, Doctor, because you can't be a different personality. You have to be the same personality. And so there's a lot of laughter in my clinic.
He says he knew early, as a kid, he wanted to become a doctor.
You're down into the nitty-gritty of someone's life, and particularly now as we keep people alive for years, that becomes a very close relationship.
It didn't take him long to focus on lung cancer.
Breast cancer had all of the money and all of the breakthroughs at the time, but it was also incredibly crowded, and, that was where the cool kids went. Lung cancer was incredibly common, but it was also like this huge unmet need. Molecular biology was going to come into the mainstream. These things called genes that we'd read about in high school were going to actually become part and parcel of, everyday here in oncology. And I thought, this is the future. Really exciting science about to happen.
That really exciting science took Dr. Camidge to the University of Colorado 2 decades ago. He leads that lung cancer program, including key research into new treatment options, something that would become personal for him.
May 2022.
He felt his first symptom.
I felt like I'd pulled something in my left shoulder. And then at about the same time, when I was going to sleep and lying on my right-hand side, there was a change in the noise my breathing made. When I breathed out, it was almost like there were 2 phases to it. So there was like the normal breath out, and then there was a little like at the end. While I wanted it to be, asthma or something like that, there was something that sort of said, well, why is it only when I lie on one side, and why is it this funny noise? I'll go and make an appointment with a primary care physician. All oncologists are paranoid. We flirt with the idea of, having the disease our patients have all the time, but only for a few seconds. And so I walked in, did a chest x-ray, walked back to my office, started checking emails, and then he phoned me and said, there's something on your chest x-ray and I think we need to do a CT scan. And whilst he's doing this, I'm pulling up the chest x-ray on my computer, and I instantly know it's lung cancer.
He was by himself learning all of this. His wife and daughters, they were on vacation.
By the time they came home, I walked out of the CT scanner, which was the same afternoon, and pulled it straight up on my computer, and I could see the dots in the other lung. I could see the mass in my right lung. I could see lymph nodes in the middle of my chest, and I could see deposits actually eating into some of the bones. And so I knew it was metastatic. They kind of pushed the go button.
Saturday, a PET scan. Sunday, MRI scan of the brain. Monday, biopsy of the lung.
By Tuesday morning, I knew that I had a specific mutation in my cancer. I knew that it was metastatic. I knew what the right treatment would be, because I'm an expert in this. The last piece of the puzzle was, rather than having to wait for my insurance to click in, sometimes when one of my patients passes on, their family will give me unopened bottles of pills to try and kickstart someone else starting. And I had spoken to the husband of one of my patients maybe a couple of weeks beforehand and gotten those pills from her, and they were the pills I needed. And so I just started them on the Tuesday afternoon.
Dr. Camidge says he had an automatic and professional approach to his diagnosis, but he's human, and those emotions would still bubble up.
I would lose it and sob uncontrollably, usually about a couple of things. One is any thought of the girls, any thought of not having a role in their future and all the things that dads are supposed to do with their daughters. In the evening, I would sit on the stoop of our house with my wife and we would both cry. We talked through what we would tell the girls, so they were 10 and 12 at the time, and decided that what we wanted was a plan in hand. Daddy's got the same condition that all of his patients have. He's on a pill. He's already started on it. We think it's probably going to do really well. It's not a cure. The cancer's not going away. This is part of our new reality. We're not going to ask anything more of you. Maybe I'll ask for a hug every now and again, but your life is going to stay exactly the same.
But each new memory made started to mean something different.
We happened to have a beach vacation, I think it was in the Florida Keys, about a week after my diagnosis. And so it was, perfect timing. Every moment, every photograph becomes something different because you have this concept that somebody's going to look back on this and you're not going to be there. My wife was taking the picture and I had the two girls in front of me in their bathing suits and they're giggling. I'm smiling and I'm pointing, with one finger outstretched up into the sky. And on one hand, it could be like, this is my number one daughter, but this is my number one daughter too. We're all great. But in my head, I was also like, if I'm not here, I'm pointing up at the sky so that they could look back and go, oh, maybe Daddy's looking down. And maybe that was just a little bit too cheesy, but that was what was going through my head when I took the picture.
As the days went on, Dr. Camidge faced the brutal reality of being on cancer treatment.
I was a bit more fatigued. The girls were fine with that. They just were used to finding me asleep on the sofa every now and again. My oldest, I think, struggled to know how to deal with it and would sort of say niceties, but she found it all rather upsetting. And my youngest would still come and sit on the end of the bed and tell me about her day. And I don't think she knows how valuable that was to me, but it was incredibly valuable. Just to sort of act as if you're normal and act as if you're still involved in their lives.
And then it was time to figure out, what do I tell my coworkers? And when? The first to know was one of his own trainees, who would then become his doctor.
We have developed a great relationship where, he can challenge me and I can challenge him. And we said, okay, well, we'll try adding in this other drug. And while some people tolerate it fine, I had a terrible time with it. And that was tough for the girls because I looked different. I had, a rash in my face. I had scabs in my hair. I couldn't eat. I lost 10, 15% of my body weight. And I was throwing up a lot. It seemed to exaggerate the side effects of the chemotherapy. So I decided when I was feeling unwell that when I started to feel better, I would come out of the cancer closet. I was a big soggy mess when I was telling them. But I ended with three bullet points. I said, treat me the same. If you were horrible to me, please keep being horrible to me. Keep the circle of trust. Our patients will panic. Some of them are very dependent on me. They have enough to worry about. They don't need this too. And the last one was look after yourselves because this is a shock to you. So some people have said, oh, this shouldn't happen to anyone, but it definitely shouldn't happen to you. And my take is like, well, no. I mean, I don't think anyone else is any more deserving of cancer than I am. And if anything, I already know about it, so I can probably deal with it better than other people. So I think I'm taking one for the team. It took probably less than a week before part of my brain had started to view this as a privilege. And I know that sounds weird, but the kind of full circle of your career and your life working on something to then literally be able to walk in the shoes of the thousands of people that you've looked after beforehand. And again, to sort of say, look, if anyone can deal with this, mentally, it's going to be you because of what, you've spent your years doing. And so I wasn't angry. And this actually took much longer to get my head around, was anyone being nice to me. Some of it is you have to deal with other people's anxiety. And it's like, dude, I'm dealing with my own stuff. I don't have time for your stuff. I'm very good at supporting other people and listening to other people. And I don't have an enormous amount of experience of being the recipient of that, knowing how to take it. And yet, if you blow everything off and go, no, I'm fine, you're taking something away from the person who's trying to give something to you.
University of Colorado Cancer Center for nearly 20 years, but now he is also a patient.
Coming out of the closet after 3 years had additional value that I don't think I was aware of at the time, which is I could say, look, you've interacted with me over these 3 years and there was value in that. You've actually been interacting with the cancer patient. Surprise.
And now, Dr. Camidge is using what he has learned as the doctor in the room to get through what he has to deal with as a patient.
I think you get comfortable living with the unknowns. It's not like I'm actively dying or I'm cured. There's this middle ground where you live in this sort of uneasy relationship with your cancer, who's like a slightly annoying neighbor who sometimes you don't hear from them for a while and sometimes they knock on the wall. And you go, okay, well, I don't want to move house. I'll figure out how to deal with it.
And he's done more than deal with it. He made the decision early on to make the most of everything.
I have deliberately tried to carve out time to try new things, so that we invented this 90-day challenge, so that in time between the scans, you don't have to do something continuously for 90 days, but you just have to try something. Yesterday I did my first knitting class, which I was terrible at, but it was still a new experience. I love doing that sort of thing, telling people that was a really dumb thing I did and don't do that, and you're doing great on this. That becomes your legacy, and I'm still passionate about that.
And Dr. Camidge has built up that legacy, known for that passion to help other people. He's been on targeted therapy, living his life 90 days at a time between scans, as he described, and we want to thank him for sharing his story to help other people. If you have a story, a great story about Dr. Camidge and or about other doctors you know who have really been advocates for patients, please share that story in the comments below. We're always looking to highlight more voices across our platforms, especially when it highlights the good in the world. Also, we suggest watching the video on your screen next and to subscribe to The Patient Story so you can be one of the first to learn about our newest stories. For now, my name is Stephanie Trong with The Patient Story. Hope to see you next time. Take good care.